I think I can relate to many people that take their life. Find yourself alone in a closet in an apartment with a pistol in your hand. It's just a sad reality. I think about a lot of things. I think about the damage to my kids, how I was hurting them. I think about how I was hurting Kathy, you know, how she deserved better than to have me as her husband. I did feel alone. I did feel rejected and unloved and unworthy and no purpose. And this thought came over me that maybe my family would be sad without me, but they would be better off. My father was a Marine, and I grew up a very rough childhood. He was a very angry man, a very frustrated man. There was lots of alcohol and physical abuse in my home, you know, fist-to-face kind of abuse. I joined the military when I was 17 years old, so the Marine Corps for me was a brand new chance at life, really a clean slate. I got to try out pretty early on within my first year of Marine Corps to be a reconnaissance Marine. Reconnaissance training is very difficult. You know, it's still to this day, the attrition rate is in many cases over 80%. Even though the training was extremely difficult, I really just enjoyed it. It was a peacetime Marine Corps. And so for me, I did all this training and wasn't gonna get to deploy.
Yeah, when 9/11 happened, I remember saying, wow, somebody just woke up a sleeping giant.
Holy Mother of God, we're going to war.
Every day in combat, you don't know if that's gonna be your last day.
You see people hurt. Civilians, kids, your fellow Marines, bad guys. And then there's nothing. Then it's back again. You can't let your guard down, you can't relax.
What I was exposed to was the suffering of humans. Young men and women waking up without limbs, waking up with a horrible injury.
I had a very good friend of mine, 1 in a million shot mortar round, took him out. The way I reacted was, oh, that sucks. Okay, well, we're still in Iraq. We still gotta move on.
A helicopter had gone down. 9 men died that day. I was able to walk back through the crash site, and I remember finding my platoon mate's shoe, and these questions start to fill your mind with, was it my fault?
I heard firsthand testimony and then got to witness the true oppression on these people from the Taliban, what was done to women and little children, little boys and little girls.
When you're in country and seeing people hurt, having bullets whiz by you and wondering, man, how close was that? I pushed it down, tried to ignore it. I got real good at that.
The standard becomes stuffing it down and putting it in your pack. What a person doesn't realize is over time, that pack becomes really, really heavy.
There was some Afghans that worked with us. They were captured and they were killed. These are people I was very close to, so I had this really imminent sense of doom. I started to fear how I would die, like what would happen as it became imminent. Maybe being captured, and the things that I would have to endure, just knowing what the Taliban did to people, definitely was on the forefront of my mind when I tried to close my eyes at night and go to sleep while I was there.
Post-traumatic stress is a normal reaction to an aberrant situation that no human being should have to endure. We send these guys overseas, expect them to come back whole after they've experienced some of the most egregious things that anybody could ever imagine.
Over the course of history, it was called shell shock or nostalgia or soldier's heart. But now it's called post-traumatic stress disorder.
It began through uncontrollable frustration and anger. My whole body would go numb, and then there was moments to where I'd kind of snap out of a fog and I realized like I didn't remember like the last hours. I felt completely ashamed because I believed I was doing a very important job. I was privileged through the opportunity to serve in the capacity I was, doing something I really believed in and was so important, and I felt like I failed. Panic, desperation, shame, guilt, all these things just hitting me at one time, and I really had no idea how to move forward.
I served 36 years as a Marine. As I look back, anybody see the horrors of combat? They didn't want to come forward because they didn't want to let their team down. They thought it was a sign of weakness if they came forward and say, look, I have this problem.
Not only was I putting myself in danger, but I was putting other people that I cared about in danger as well. And so I had to speak up and say something. And when I did, I was brought home. In a short period of time, they had me before a clinical psychologist, and I was given this diagnosis of PTSD.
When you come out of combat and you're back with your family, you're back in your home environment and all that, you want everything to be wonderful. You want everything to be good. And it probably is for the first 2 or 3 days. The problem is then the things that have been imprinted on your mind, you start reliving.
Less than 1% of our population serve in the military. So they feel like the people around them don't understand. And then they have all these sensors, you know, a bag or a suspicious package on the road in Iraq or Afghanistan meant one thing. At home, it's just somebody's litter or a loud noise. You have all these different symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, and particularly a hypervigilance and feeling uncomfortable in the new culture that you found yourself in. That transition is very difficult.
I would get angry quickly when certain things would happen that really weren't happening. It was just in my mind.
I wasn't sleeping, I was making mistakes, and I was spinning, but I was in denial.
What's wrong with everybody else? I'm not the issue. Like, I went to combat. This is how things are. I was a Marine. That's how I'm gonna be. This is my new norm. So everybody else is screwed up. I was just numb. I would say things and not care that I didn't even care about what I was saying because I was hurting my wife or my children or getting into fights out in town, and I would act in fits of rage.
My wife and I, we had many problems. The relationship with my kids was strained, and I was really tired of feeling like a square peg trying to fit into a round circle.
My daughter had a birthday party, and we were celebrating, and she had a cake, and she's very opinionated, and just her personality, and she didn't like the type of cake that she had, and she expressed it, and I just like flipped out, and I grabbed a handful of my little girl's birthday cake and picked it up, and I threw it against the wall and destroyed my little girl's birthday. And I could tell you many incidents like that about me behaving like that.
We were on our way to driving somewhere. I don't remember exactly what I said to him, but it angered him, and he started kicking in the dashboard and just throwing a fit in the front, and the kids were screaming, sitting in the back, screaming and scared. I didn't know how to love Chad through what he was going through, and I just became hard.
My grandmother, who played a big role in raising me, she just wanted me to have something positive to do. And so she dropped me off at martial arts school when I was 5 years old. They had traditional jiu-jitsu and judo. And so that was my first exposure to those arts. And so my wife and my psychologist were trying to find something to get me engaged in life again. They recommended that I get on mats and do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I was already a professional fighter at the time in MMA. I was fighting on the side while in the military, and I was pretty good at it. I was undefeated as a professional fighter.
Big slam from Robo!
I felt like I found a cure. I couldn't think about Afghanistan or the things that were working me up to have anxiety and panic attacks while I was training. You could be sick from having a cold or something and take a medicine, and you could abuse that medicine as well. And that's what I did with jiu-jitsu.
A lot of people use running or weightlifting or martial arts to help them to deal with the stresses that they're feeling from PTSD. And you can become obsessed with it at the expense of other things around you, like your family.
The school that Kathy and I opened, we ran like a family business. We ended up with almost 1,000 students. On the outside, I think if anyone was looking at my life at that time, they would have never suspected anything was wrong. In fact, it looked like this, just super successful life professionally.
Chad Robichaux is back!
The truth is, it was really just this fake kind of facade of success, because underneath all of that was still someone who was having panic attacks, and my family was still dealing with me throwing temper tantrums and ego trips. It didn't take long in our marriage being in that state for me to start very inappropriate relationships with other girls from the gym, and then ended up in an affair, and which led to Kathy finding out and us sitting down with our family and telling our kids we were going to get divorced. We sold our home, and we signed 2 separate 12-month leases on apartments, and we filed for divorce.
I was able to get connected with a life group from my church, so I found a little bit of hope there. Then I began to start praying for Chad. God, help me to see Chad the way you see Chad, and help me to love Chad the way you love Chad. And the hardest one was to help me forgive Chad the way you forgave Chad.
I remember this fight, like we were in the middle of the ring, like beating each other up. Like I kicked him in the face like 3 times, knocked him down, he punched me, knocked me down, and I ended up winning. And when the referee raises my hand, 10,000 people in the crowd cheering, and the one person that wasn't there was Kathy.
I was facing losing everything I had worked so hard for. So to not be able to be a Marine and already know that you're a horrible parent and a terrible husband, where do you find hope? If I didn't change anything, it was only a matter of time before, when I was driving, that tree looked really inviting. And the steering wheel was in my hand, and all I needed to do was make a quick turn.
A lot of guys end up drinking, a lot of guys end up losing hope. Some of them will go to the VA and they'll try to get, prescription medications to help with PTSD. They'll get pills for anxiety, they'll get pills because they can't sleep, now they'll get pills for depression. Before they know it, they're taking 12 different medications. And when it's not working out, these guys lose hope, and that's why there's 23 guys a day committing suicide.
I did something very important with my life, and that was a chapter that was over, and what do I have now? I felt like my purpose was expired, and so I decided I was going to take my life.
I got a phone call one day from him, and he was very emotional. He didn't ask me to come over, but I knew I needed to get over there. I saw him broken, and I really just didn't understand if it hurt him so bad like that. Why was he choosing to move forward in the direction he was moving?
She just saw a life of professional discipline and success. And so she's asking me, how can you do all of that, and when it comes to your family, you'll quit? You know, for me, there's probably no more soul-cutting word to be called a quitter. And I decided in that moment that I was gonna turn my life around and repair this damage that I had done. I didn't know how exactly I was gonna do it, but what I did know is that I couldn't do it by myself. And so that's when I asked Kathy if she could make an introduction to some man in her church that could help hold me accountable to this decision. And that resulted in being introduced to a man named Steve Toth.
Chad and I got together at Starbucks for coffee. He said, look, I've got a plan for how I'm gonna turn this thing around. He slides this piece of paper across the table to me, and I took one look at it, and I saw an absence of anything that had anything to do with God being part of the solution. And I slid it back across the table to him, and I said, look, I don't wanna waste your time. You don't wanna waste my time. This isn't gonna work. It's just not gonna work, Chad. And he said, why? And he's completely puzzled. And I said, if God plays no part in the transformation of you or Kathy, then you're gonna fall on your face. It's not gonna work.
I tried the pills, I tried the counseling, I tried MMA and jiu-jitsu. None of those things that worked for me. It was time for me to try something different. I made a decision to surrender my life to Christ at that moment and step into what I believe to be the life that God intended me to live.
It's not about preaching to someone. It's not about giving them all the answers. It's walking through life with them. That's what it takes to help these guys.
Then I get a call from him, and he says he doesn't want to lose the best thing that's ever happened to him.
I found hope through Steve's mentorship. I found restoration in my marriage and my family. And I found what I had been searching for and wanting and needing, I believe, my whole life. One of my favorite quotes is from Mark Twain. It says the two most important days in a person's life are the day that they're born and the day that they find out why. When Steve Toth introduced me to the life that I believe I was created to live, I felt like I found out the why. And it was to share with others what I had found.
He read me Isaiah 61, and as he read, and they will become mighty oaks of righteousness, I just said, and it's going to be called Mighty Oaks.
The core program of the Mighty Oaks Foundation is our legacy program. It's our week-long sessions held in one of our 4 venues across the country, where we bring men and women who have been affected by military service, and we help them move beyond whatever issues or traumas are holding them back.
We have a veteran suicide rate of 23 a day and a divorce rate of 80 to 90% in our combat veterans. So our number one goal with the program is to combat those statistics.
The problem with these guys when they get back from Iraq or Afghanistan is they lose their sense of mission, purpose, unit cohesion, and a job. And the greatest thing that any young man needs to find, or any young person needs to find, is their sense of purpose. What am I here for? What have I been created for?
I really don't know why I went to Mighty Oaks. It was faith-based, and why not? Let's give this thing a shot. I haven't really given anything else a shot.
I remember talking to a licensed social worker who actually handed me a pamphlet to Mighty Oaks. So I went. And I'm glad I did.
When I was going through this, and I was in my darkest time, I thought I was completely alone. I thought no one could feel like me, no one could feel, no one's marriage could be as bad as mine, no one could feel so hopeless that they didn't want to live anymore. Coming out of that valley, out of that fog, I realized that I wasn't the only one.
To walk into Mighty Oaks and understand that there are other men that are dealing with very similar issues like I was dealing with, someone that at least let me know that it didn't have to be like it was in the past.
For the first time, they understand they don't have to be that broken person that they came in as, that they can heal, that they can do great things with their lives. You're not dead until you're no longer breathing. And yet there are a lot of people who are breathing who are living like they're dead.
started listening to them, and everything they said just kept hitting me in the heart over and over and over again. It's like all the things that I didn't know that I needed to hear. And I opened my heart to God that week, dude, and like, I've been a different person ever since. I mean, I can't even describe how quickly all that emptiness that I had that I couldn't fill with women, with drugs, with liquor, with just anything. Just boom.
When you're going through an impossible situation, you often think you're all alone. No one could possibly experience what you're experiencing. No one can feel what you feel, and no one can understand. And it's very easy to focus on yourself and your own circumstances and your own self-pity and miss the very fact that many others around you are facing very similar things. We all need a leader to follow in life. There always should be someone in our life that we're following. But there's also times in our life where we must be a leader for others.
This whole understanding of post-traumatic stress has increased considerably within the last decade, and there's a lot of programs, particularly faith-based programs, that are ministering to troops, families, veterans in unique ways, unprecedented ways. And empirically, scientifically, it's being accepted and integrated into overall programs.
At the time, there was 22 veterans a day taking their life. 21 of those were on the veteran community. One of those was on the active duty community. So while they're still in active duty, it's only one a day. Let's catch them before they get out. The military sends them on active duty orders to these programs, and we are able to serve them and teach them the same things that I discovered. We were serving the veterans, then we were serving those transitioning, then we were serving the active duty. If we go even before that and catch those who are early on before they deploy, instead of recovery, we could take those same principles and same things that we help people recover with and make them resilient warriors. We began an effort to start doing resiliency conferences to active duty commands that were pre-deploying.
There were some things that helped me after my deployment, some things I wish I had known before my deployment. And so here's what you need to know. You're going to experience hard things. You're going to perhaps even deal with some trauma in your life, but you need to have decided ahead of time that you will continue to move forward. You need to have something to align your life to now so that if you get knocked down because of trauma, you can realign your life to that thing again and continue to move forward.
I believe those situations, the same ones that almost destroyed me, that almost cost me everything, handled the right way through resiliency, can build you up and make you stronger. I didn't have to let my past define my future anymore. And none of us do. Regardless of what we've been through, where we've been, we don't have to let our past define our future.
Mighty Oaks has an extremely powerful message. I went to one of their programs very recently, and within that group, there were spouses of warriors, but also female veterans from the Army, Marine Corps, and a couple of us from the Air Force.
The women's program consists of wives. Some of them are active duty themselves, and some of them are veterans. Some of these women may just be stay-at-home mothers. Whatever our roles are, that's not who we are. So we want them to see who they are and come up with a desire to align their life up with the life God created them to live.
There's so many issues for women in the military. And so what we hear a lot is stories of military sexual trauma, childhood abuse, rape. That is from, I would say, spouses, veterans, active duty service members across the board. Anger and stressful homes and just outbursts, and then infidelity. I feel like women are very good at pretending that everything is fine, it's fine. And just hearing a woman be so openly transparent and willing to share maybe some hard things, maybe some things that she wouldn't share, that's what makes a really, really big difference. And I feel like that's kind of what opens the doors and tears down the walls for us then to be able to communicate and speak into the lives of the ladies.
They're exposing the pain for you to understand where it's coming from and for you to move forward.
We have programs all over the country. We have thousands of folks that we speak to every year to help folks find hope and purpose and direction.
So what I'm doing now at Mighty Oaks, I'm the operations coordinator, assisting the national programs director, but I'm also often a team leader.
I couldn't have a better identity. I no longer worry about my identity of who I was in the Marine Corps or the woulda, shoulda, coulda stuff. I'm a Christian man, and I'm gonna walk that out because that's what I'm called to do. That's what I was created to do, is to be a leader. There's no better responsibility.
The message I'd like to share with the men that come to Mighty Oaks is that God made us, and even though we veered off a path that we were supposed to be on, He can restore us. So it's really taught me humility. It's really taught me what brotherhood really is. It's really taught me what a true purpose in life can be.
Before coming here, I was struggling with post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression.
The foundation that I based everything off of in my life had fallen apart.
I was driven by fear and anger and paranoia of being unsafe.
My marriage was going in the direction of divorce. My 2 daughters were feeling the effects of it.
Suicide thoughts, and basically isolating myself from everybody, all my friends, my family.
I've struggled with PTSD and effects of my service for 60-some years.
I had been through so many VA appointments, psychiatric therapy sessions.
I was scared because I didn't want to battle my demons.
I was immediately greeted by a staff of men that knew what I was going through, had been in my shoes.
It was like knot after knot. You could imagine a rope with 1,000 knots, and little by little, each knot was being undone.
This is the first week in a long time where I've laughed and I smiled.
Everything that I was told here just made sense to me. It's given me like a new lease on life.
I thank God for saving me.
I am the most happiest I have been in over 10 years. I get to go home tomorrow and start the real battle.
I have a way forward now. I have friends, true brothers that will be there for me.
This program may have been the single most influence in my life that will forever change me and determine what kind of a man, husband, and father I will be until the day that I die. Thank you, Mighty Oaks.
This is a rudis. It was given to a rudarius, which was a gladiator that had earned his freedom, either through winning multiple fights or from winning one great fight. And this was a sign. He would carry this wooden sword around as a sign and a symbol to the public that he was a free man. You gentlemen are free men. You're no longer slaves. Walk around as free men.
Even though you've gone through their program, they don't drop you. You're still one of theirs. And as long as you want to have a friend, you've got one in Mighty Oaks.
If you're out there and you're experiencing the loss and the trauma of post-traumatic stress, don't walk through this alone. That's what we're here for. We love you, and we want to help you. You weren't meant to go through this alone. No one is.
Life is hard. We're all going to face hardships in life, but life also has a blueprint, and God has a plan and purpose for each of our lives. And if we'll simply make the decision to step out of our own will and step into the will and life that God has for us, we can transcend any adversity we're going to face. And not only that, but we can step into the very lives that we're created to live. We hope you enjoyed Never Fight Alone. It's been an incredible journey to get to where we are today and bring you the story of Mighty Oaks Foundation. But as many of you have just learned, our work is far from over. As we release this documentary, we're coming out of an unprecedented year where many of our nation's warriors who are already in desperate need of our programs have been forced to isolate due to lockdowns. Suicide rates for active duty service members are up 35%, and calls to our nation's suicide prevention hotline have reached record numbers, a nearly 1,000% increase. But unprecedented events call for an unprecedented response, and that is why we are stepping up to make sure that every veteran, active duty service member, first responder, and spouse who comes to us will find a place in one of our legacy programs. We're asking for you to stand with us and help us make a direct impact in the battle against post-traumatic stress disorder and the veteran suicide epidemic. Our legacy programs have one of the highest success rates available anywhere, which thanks to a grateful nation are made available at no cost to include travel. Visit mightyoaksprograms.org to learn more about how you can come alongside of us and help us to save lives, restore families, and change legacies for eternity. Also, if you or someone you know is in need of one of our programs, you can apply at mightyoaksprograms.org. We and those we serve greatly appreciate your support, and we thank you for watching. God bless.